This is a story about love, loss, and the courage to find oneself. Behind seemingly ordinary smiles lies pain that no one can see. This is the journey of a young woman learning that sometimes, loving is not about staying, but about daring to choose herself. Here begins her story. Chapter 1, The Girl Who Learned to Stay Silent. I was 17 when I learned that pain didn't always come with bruises. Some wounds were invisible, hidden behind smiles, apologies, and the quiet belief that love meant enduring discomfort. At 17, I didn't know how to name what I was feeling. I only knew that my chest felt heavy, and silence felt safer than speaking. My mother taught me that. Not with words, but with her life. She stayed in a marriage that slowly erased her laughter. She believed that patience was love and endurance was loyalty. And I watched, quietly promising myself that I would never become her. Life, of course, has a cruel sense of irony. 10 years later, I met Ethan Walker on a gray afternoon in Boston, the kind of day where the sky felt low enough to touch. I was sitting alone in a cafe near the Charles River, pretending to write in my notebook. The truth was, I hadn't written anything meaningful in weeks. My thoughts were loud, and my emotions felt tangled. Watching strangers was easier than confronting myself. As this seat taken, I looked up. Ethan stood there, rain clinging to his jacket, his hair slightly damp. He looked tired, not in a careless way, but in the way people look when they've carried responsibility for too long. "No," I said. "Go ahead." He smiled, gentle, almost hesitant, and something in my chest softened. That was the first mistake. We talked easily, as if conversation had been waiting for us. He told me he was an architect. I told him I worked in publishing. We laughed about the absurdity of adulthood, how no one ever really knows what they're doing, but everyone pretends they do. "You seem quiet," he said at one point. "I think a lot," I replied. "I like that," he said. Quiet people usually feel deeply. I didn't know then how dangerous it was to feel seen by someone who would later misunderstand what that depth required. When we parted ways, Ethan asked for my number. "I'd like to see you again," he said, without pressure, without insistence. I gave it to him. Because at that moment, love still felt like possibility, not risk. That night, I wrote in my notebook for the first time in weeks. Some storms enter your life quietly, and you mistake them for shelter. I didn't understand the words yet. But I would. Chapter 2, A Kindness That Felt Like Home. Ethan became part of my life quietly, without ceremony. There was no dramatic moment where I realized I was falling in love. No sudden confession, no racing heartbeat that warned me something irreversible was happening. Instead, he settled into my days the way habits do, gently, persistently, until imagining life without him felt strange. He texted every morning. "Did you sleep well? Don't forget your scarf. It's cold today." Small things. Thoughtful things. After years of taking care of myself, being noticed felt intimate. We started seeing each other several times a week. Coffee dates turned into dinners, dinners turned into evenings that stretched too long to measure. Ethan listened when I spoke, his attention unwavering, as if nothing else in the world mattered more than my words. "I like how you think," he told me once. "You notice things other people miss." No one had ever said that to me before. He learned my routines quickly. Which cafe I preferred, how I liked my tea, that I needed quiet after long days. "You don't have to explain yourself to me," he said. "I understand you." Those words, wrapped around me like warmth. Understanding felt like safety. And safety, I would later learn, can be intoxicating. Chapter 3, The Safety of Being Chosen. Being with Ethan made me feel chosen in a way I wasn't prepared for. He made space for me, emotionally, physically, and it felt deliberate, intentional. When we walked together, he slowed his steps to match mine. When I spoke, he leaned closer, as if my voice deserved proximity. "You matter to me," he said, simply. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. After a childhood spent watching my mother disappear into someone else's needs, being prioritized felt revolutionary. I didn't notice how quickly my world began to revolve around his presence. How I checked my phone first thing in the morning. How my schedule adjusted itself to his availability. How my happiness started depending on the sound of his voice. Love, I told myself, was supposed to change you. When Ethan stayed over for the first time, he held me as if he were afraid of losing me. "I've never felt like this before," he whispered. Neither had I, and that should have scared me. Chapter 4, Love Looks Like Understanding. Ethan had a way of making me feel known. Not just seen, but understood, as if he could read the spaces between my words and fill them in correctly. When I spoke about my work, he listened with patience. When I hesitated, he waited. When I fell silent, he didn't rush me to explain. "You don't have to push yourself with me," he said once, his thumb tracing slow circles on the back of my hand. "I can tell when you're overwhelmed." I nodded, grateful. Understanding felt rare, precious. For most of my life, I had learned to translate myself for others, to soften my needs, to shrink my discomfort, to make sure I wasn't too much. With Ethan, I thought, I didn't have to do that. When I told him about my mother, about the way she learned to disappear inside her marriage, he listened without interrupting. "That must have been hard," he said quietly. "Watching that growing up." It was, I admitted. I promised myself I'd never live like that. He squeezed my hand. "And you won't," he said. "You're stronger than you think." The words settled inside me like reassurance. Ethan became the first person I wanted to tell everything to. Good news, bad days, small observations that didn't matter to anyone else. When something upset me, he remembered. When something made me smile, he repeated it later, as if proving that my happiness was worth tracking. "I pay attention," he said. "That's what love is." I didn't question him. Why would I? But slowly, the understanding began to feel heavier. When I canceled plans because I was exhausted, he understood, but he also asked what had drained me so much. When I felt distant, he understood, but wanted to know why. When I needed time alone, he gave it, but not without checking in. "I just want to make sure you're okay," he said. And I believed him, because concern can look exactly like care. One night, after a long day at work, I asked if we could stay in instead of going out. "Of course," he said, though I noticed the brief pause before his smile returned. "I just thought you might want to get dressed up." Guilt bloomed in my chest. "I can," I said quickly. "If you want." He shook his head. No, I want what you want." But the evening felt different. I laughed less. I checked his expressions more. I tried to make sure he wasn't disappointed. I didn't know when love began requiring performance. Chapter 5, The Past We Don't Talk About. Ethan rarely spoke about his past. When he did, it came in fragments, carefully chosen, loosely connected, like pieces of a story he wasn't ready to tell in full. "My dad left when I was young," he said once, staring out the window. "My mom did her best, but it wasn't easy. There were ex-girlfriends too," mentioned briefly, always in the same tone. "They didn't really get me," he said. "They made things complicated." I never heard anger in his voice, only resignation. So I didn't ask questions. I told myself that digging into someone's past was intrusive. That love meant accepting what people were willing to share, not demanding more. But sometimes, late at night, when the room was quiet and the world felt distant, I noticed how tightly he held me. His arm around my waist was firm, protective, almost desperate. "Don't leave," he murmured once, half asleep. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered back. I didn't understand then how dangerous promises could be when they were made out of fear. There were moments when the cracks showed. If I mentioned an old friend, especially a male one, his body stiffened, just slightly. "I didn't know you were still close," he said. "We're not," I replied. "We just talk sometimes." He nodded, but the air shifted. "I trust you," he said. "I just don't trust other people's intentions." I reassured him, because reassurance felt easier than confrontation. One evening, as we cleaned up after dinner, I asked him directly, "Do you ever think about your past relationships?" He froze, only for a second, then smiled. "What's the point?" he said. "You're here now." It sounded romantic. It should have been a warning. That night, lying awake beside him, I thought about all the questions I hadn't asked. Not because I wasn't curious, but because I was afraid of what the answers might reveal. Love, I was learning, had taught me how to stay quiet. Chapter 6: When Attention Turns into Control. The change didn't arrive all at once. There was no clear moment I could point to and say, "This is when it started." Instead, it unfolded quietly, disguised as care, wrapped in concern, softened by affection. Ethan began asking more questions. Not demanding ones, gentle ones. "What time will you be home? Who's going to be there? Did you have a good time?" At first, I welcomed them. After all, wasn't this what partners did? Weren't we supposed to take interest in each other's lives? But slowly, the questions started to feel less like curiosity and more like expectation. If I answered vaguely, he asked for clarification. If I took too long to reply, he checked in again. If my tone sounded different, he noticed. "You seem off," he said one evening. Did I do something? The question caught me off guard. "No," I replied quickly. "I'm just tired." He nodded, though his expression didn't fully relax. "I just worry," he said. "You don't always tell me when something's wrong." The words lingered with an unspoken implication that silence was a failure. I started explaining myself more. Why I was late. Why I felt distracted. Why I wanted to see my friends without him sometimes. Each explanation felt reasonable on its own. Together, they formed a pattern I didn't yet recognize. When I went out without him, he texted often. "Are you okay? Everything good? Let me know when you're home." I told myself it was sweet. Until one night, I forgot to message him right away. When I finally checked my phone, there were 5 missed texts. "I was worried," he said later, his voice tight. "I thought something happened." Guilt washed over me. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't mean to make you worry." He exhaled slowly, pulling me into a hug. "I just care about you too much," he whispered. And just like that, the discomfort dissolved, replaced by responsibility. I began adjusting my behavior to avoid those moments. I checked my phone more often. I updated him without being asked. I chose words carefully, making sure they couldn't be misunderstood. Peace, I discovered, could be managed. Chapter 7: The First Apology. The first argument was small. So small that I almost missed its importance. I had dinner plans with a coworker, something casual, something I didn't think needed mentioning. When I told Ethan afterward, his expression changed. "You didn't tell me," he said. "I didn't think it mattered," I replied. "It was just dinner." His jaw tightened, though his voice remained calm. "I just wish you'd told me," he said. "It's not about control. It's about respect." The word struck something in me. "I respect you," I said quickly. "I just didn't think." "That's the problem," he interrupted softly. "You didn't think about how it would make me feel." The room felt smaller. I searched his face, trying to understand what I had done wrong. "I'm sorry," I said. The apology came easily, reflexively. He looked relieved. "That's all I wanted," he said, pulling me into his arms. "I just need to know I matter to you." Later that night, after the tension had settled, Ethan spoke again. "I shouldn't have reacted that way," he said. "I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable." I froze. This was different. I didn't mean to hurt you, he continued. I just get scared sometimes. I've lost people before. I nodded, my chest tight. It's okay, I said. Because he apologized. Because people who apologize aren't dangerous. Because love, I believed, was about understanding each other's flaws. As I lay beside him that night, staring at the ceiling, a quiet thought surfaced, fleeting and easy to dismiss. Why did his fear feel heavier than my comfort? I turned toward him, letting the question fade into silence. Some realizations take time.